It always starts with a whisper before the storm, doesn't it? People go about their lives, shopping for groceries, scrolling through their phones, believing tomorrow will look exactly like today. But what if tomorrow suddenly looked nothing like yesterday? Imagine walking into your local store and seeing empty shelves, not because of bad management, but because the system itself cracked overnight. That thought alone is enough to shake even the most confident among us. For decades, we've been conditioned to think that collapse is a Hollywood script, not a real possibility. Yet history keeps proving otherwise. Empires fall, currencies vanish, and societies unravel, not in centuries, but in a matter of years, sometimes months. Rome didn't see it coming until the walls were already burning. The Soviet Union looked stable right up until it wasn't. That's the point most Americans don't want to admit. The storm clouds are already here. And here's the kicker. Everyone keeps talking about 2030 as if it's the magic number, the line in the sand. But the cracks don't wait for your calendar. The reality is, the unraveling doesn't announce itself in advance. It creeps in quietly through inflation, through unrest, through the daily headlines you scroll past without a second thought. And if you're thinking, well, I've got time, I promise you, time is already moving faster than you realize. Which brings us to the myth of 2030. There's a dangerous comfort in believing that 2030 is some kind of finish line. Governments whisper it, elites put it on their agendas, and think tanks publish glossy reports as if the world will hold its breath until that date. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That timeline is a distraction. It's like being told your house will flood in 10 years, while water is already seeping under the door. By the time you notice your socks are wet, it's already too late to build the dam. People latch on to numbers because numbers feel safe, concrete, predictable. If the collapse isn't until 2030, then I've got 6 more years to figure it out, right? Wrong. Think of the 2008 financial crash. How many analysts told us the economy was strong, right up until it wasn't? Ordinary families lost homes, jobs, and futures overnight. No countdown clock warned them. Collapse doesn't RSVP before it arrives. What has worse is that this myth of 2030 blinds people to the danger that is already unfolding in plain sight. Food prices creeping up every month. Crime climbing in neighborhoods once called safe. Political battles that make unity feel like a fantasy. These aren't isolated blips, they're early signals. The trap is believing the big shift is years away, when in reality, the fuse has already been lit. And once you see it that way, the signs of fragility around us suddenly look impossible to ignore. Which brings us straight to those very signs. Look around, and it's hard to deny the cracks showing everywhere. The economy feels like a balloon stretched to its limit, with debt climbing past numbers the average person can't even comprehend. Every trip to the grocery store is a reminder. Prices inch higher, packages shrink, and paychecks don't stretch like they used to. People tell themselves it's temporary, but history says otherwise. Once the financial system starts groaning, collapse doesn't politely slow down. It accelerates. Families argue over politics at the dinner table. Neighbors look at each other with suspicion, and trust in institutions has all but evaporated. Think about the nightly news. Shootings, riots, protest stories that used to be shocking are now routine. When fear becomes normal, society is already sliding into instability. It's not a sudden explosion, but a steady erosion, like watching a bridge weaken bolt by bolt until it finally snaps. And let's not forget the infrastructure that quietly holds everything together. Rolling blackouts in major cities, supply chain hiccups that leave shelves bare, crumbling roads and bridges that no one funds until disaster strikes. If you've ever stood in line for gas after a shortage or panicked when a store was out of basics, you've had a small taste of what millions could face at scale. These aren't distant possibilities. They're warning sirens blaring right now, pointing towards something bigger, something history has shown us before. History has a way of whispering secrets to those willing to listen, yet most people keep walking past. Take Rome, for example. They were powerful, wealthy, and confident, believing their empire would last forever. Yet corruption, overextension, and internal strife slowly ate away at their foundation. One day, the streets they built with pride became the pathways for invaders. The lesson? No empire is immune, no matter how invincible it seems. The Soviet Union tells a similar story, but in modern terms. Leaders claimed stability and growth, boasting numbers that dazzled outsiders. Ordinary citizens clung to daily routines, thinking the system was unbreakable. Then, almost overnight, lines formed for basic necessities. Governments collapsed, and a once mighty union splintered into chaos. People realized too late that the illusions of stability had masked fragility for decades. The pattern repeats over and over. Overconfidence, denial, and unpreparedness make collapse faster and harsher. What we often forget is that the warning signs are rarely dramatic. They're subtle shifts, rising tensions, small cracks in the system. If you pay attention, you'll notice them in the news, in your city, in your neighborhood. And recognizing these early signs is the only way to start preparing before it's too late, leading us to the hidden timeline of America's decline. The truth is, collapse doesn't follow calendars or deadlines. It creeps forward quietly, stage by stage, often unnoticed until it's too late. From 2024 to 2026, expect tensions to rise visibly. Inflation spikes, social unrest bubbles under the surface, and small disruptions in supply chains start to hit ordinary lives. It's like watching cracks in a dam. You might see the tiny leaks, but the flood feels sudden when it arrives. Between 2026 and 2028, these disruptions become undeniable. Energy shortages, food scarcity, and more frequent natural disasters will start reshaping daily routines. Picture cities grappling with blackouts or empty store shelves while people scramble to adapt. Those who ignored the early warning signs now feel the pressure, realizing that the grace period they counted on has vanished. Finally, from 2028 to 2030, the system may reach a tipping point. Confidence in governments and institutions erodes, communities fracture, and the infrastructure we rely on begins to fail. It's not a single event, but a series of crises that cascade into one another, creating an environment where survival skills, preparation, and awareness aren't just useful, they're necessary. And once you understand this timeline, you start seeing how unprepared most people really are. When the real collapse hits, it won't be slow or polite, it'll hit in ways most people never imagine. Water and food scarcity will be the first harsh realities, not because of global catastrophe, but because supply chains fail in cities built on convenience. Imagine walking into a store and realizing there's nothing left to eat for your family for days, then remembering you never stored extra. Panic sets in fast. Healthcare will crumble next, quietly at first. Hospitals will struggle to keep up with surges. Shortages of medicine will appear, and ordinary ailments that were once manageable could turn dangerous. A small injury or infection might escalate because the system everyone relied on no longer functions reliably. People forget how much they take for granted until it's gone, and suddenly, preparation feels like the only lifeline. And then there's safety. As law enforcement and institutions falter under pressure, crime and violence escalate. Neighborhoods that once felt secure will no longer be safe, and self-defense, strategy, and resourcefulness become daily necessities. The shocking part is that most Americans don't even see these risks coming, which makes the idea of acting now all the more urgent. And once you realize that, the question becomes, how do you actually prepare for what's ahead? Preparation isn't about panic buying or hoarding. It's about thoughtful, realistic steps you can take today. Start with essentials: water, food, and basic medical supplies. Even small actions, like rotating canned goods or learning how to purify water, give you an advantage when others are caught off guard. It's not dramatic, but it works, and it builds confidence one step at a time. Energy independence is another game changer. Solar panels, backup generators, or even simple hand-crank devices can keep lights on when the grid fails. Imagine a summer blackout while your neighbors scramble. Having a reliable power source is like holding a secret key to normalcy. It's not about being flashy. It's about being self-reliant, smart, and ready for the unexpected. Defense and community shouldn't be overlooked either. Learning basic self-defense, forming local networks, and understanding your environment can make all the difference when chaos escalates. Think of it like building layers of protection. The more prepared you are, the less vulnerable you feel. And the sooner you start, the more time you have to adapt before the world around you changes in ways you can to control. Time is rarely on anyone's side when systems begin to fail, and waiting until 2030 could already be too late. Every day that passes without preparation increases the gap between survival and vulnerability. Imagine realizing the storm hit while you're still scrambling for basics. Those moments are unforgiving, and hindsight offers no solutions. The key is perspective. Seeing what's happening now, not what's projected, gives you an edge. People often wait for a clear signal or official warning, but real-world crises don't send invitations. By acting today, you start building resilience, stockpiles, skills, and networks that others will wish they had. It's about turning awareness into actionable steps, one decision at a time. And here's the point that most miss. The sooner you prepare, the more control you reclaim over your life. Waiting for a magical year like 2030 is tempting, but it's an illusion. The real opportunity is now to educate yourself, to gather resources, and to build a life that can withstand shocks others aren't ready for. Once you see that, the choice becomes obvious: adapt or risk being left behind.
Dear fellow Americans, attention. What I'm about to tell you next is life or death information. If you too are feeling scared or confused, or if you feel that there's absolutely no hope left, then this presentation will shed light on what's really happening right now and what you must do next. And if you value your life, the life of your children, and the safety of your family, if you care about everything that's near and dear to you and want to protect yourself from losing all that you've worked for so hard, you'll stop everything you're doing right now and watch the following presentation until the very end. Because in the next couple of short minutes, you will be given for free the secret that will save the lives of your dear ones, no matter how hard things will get. It's the only one thing that makes the real difference between who will live and who won't. The one thing that will enable you to withstand a life normal inside the safety of your home for as long as it takes. Dear fellow Americans, if you are watching this, you still have time to prepare. Because despite what you may think, not everything is lost yet. In fact, I'm willing to guarantee that if you stick with me for the next 5 minutes, you will go to sleep tonight filled with overwhelming feeling of confidence and peace of mind, as you'll finally know that even during the most terrifying collapse or disaster, no matter how long it will take or how desperate the situation will be for others, you will have plenty of food, water, medicine, a warm shelter, and everything else that you need to bulletproof yourself and your loved ones from thirst, starvation, infections, and any other unforeseeable threat. The simple solution that I'm about to share with you will never run out, and it's 1,000,000 times better than just a simple face mask, a hand sanitizer, or a bottle of Tylenol. And best of all, it doesn't require you to start building any atomic bunker or spend your hard-earned money on expensive survival kits. This one solution will allow you to be truly safe and to be able to get through anything with the peace of mind that everything that you care for, your family, your house, your pets, and even your car or your boat will be still there long after the crisis will pass. I promise you that in the next 5 minutes, you will get all the knowledge that you need to make it through any pandemic, a crisis, or state of emergency. You will not be any other empty statistic. You will not watch your loved ones die one by one. Instead, you will be fully prepared and fully equipped with a skill set that not many Americans have, in all honesty. Something so valuable that will also allow you and your family to be survivors who will thrive long after the crisis is gone. Who am I to make such a huge promise to you? Well, my name is Frank Marshall, and for the past 27 years, I've saved the lives of thousands of hardworking, regular Americans just like you as a proud member of the U.S. Army Humanitarian Relief Forces. Currently, I live in a real small, quiet town in northern Montana, together with my wife and my 2 beautiful daughters. But whenever a disaster does hit, I always pack my bags, kissed my family goodbye, not knowing if I was going to see them ever again, and rushed off to provide much-needed help to folks in danger as the leader of the frontline emergency response team. Now, whenever a crisis situation appeared, I had to be there. I got called in the middle of the night in 2007 and went to California to help stop the spreading of one of the worst wildfires in history, which caused the evacuation of over 1 million people. You heard about it. I cannot even begin to describe what horrors I've seen there. But at the same time, I still get postcards every year from those who we saved from certain death. And in 2017, when Hurricane Irma caused widespread damage in Florida, knocking out the power to 7.7 million homes and businesses, I was there, setting up tents and providing food, medicine, and comfort to those folks in just a couple of hours that lost everything that they worked for their entire lives. And I've been called to snowstorms and tornadoes and hurricanes all across the United States and abroad. I've rescued children, old folks, and even pet companions from beneath the rubble in the aftermath of the Haiti earthquake in 2010, when, God bless their souls, more than 150,000 people died. But even after such a long and often very dangerous career, I couldn't stay away from helping people and keep saving lives. And that's why after I retired, I've become a certified survival and disaster expert. I have spent my entire adult life in battle, and my experience with disaster is actually good news for you. You see, between 2002 and 2004, I volunteered to go to southern China and got first-hand experience on the measures taken to stop the deadly outbreak of SARS, which killed almost 1 in every 10 people infected by the virus. Little did I know back then that a new epidemic, this time 20 times more dangerous, will catch me again in China in 2019, right in the epicenter. Yes, I was in Wuhan province when the new virus pandemic started, where I witnessed firsthand the panic in the streets, the empty stores, the people collapsing on the sidewalks, the army patrolling day and night, and the countless body bags of those poor souls killed by this new deadly virus. A virus which eventually spread all across the world, including in our beloved country. As you can see, during my long years of helping countless people survive some of the worst disasters that humanity has witnessed, I've acquired a new set of skills that I want to share with you today. Whether it was a hurricane, an earthquake, or a viral pandemic which spread like wildfire, I was in a unique position to see firsthand what the people who survived did. How they stayed prepared and completely avoided any danger. How no matter what happened, they continued to have food, water, medicine, and warm shelter, and most importantly, managed to keep safe and sound their entire families. Sometimes with absolutely no support from their government, or even for weeks on end. But at the same time, I understood exactly what could happen to those who were not prepared for such situations. And in the next couple of minutes, I will reveal to you exactly what is the secret of all those who did survive. But before I do, I hope you don't mind if I tell you why I care so deeply about helping you get prepared in the case of the world as we know will end, and how you can protect your family the way the government won't do it. You see, for me, it's personal. Back in March 2019, I just got a call from my 78-year-old grandfather-in-law. Frank, he said, I think Mary is dying. She just had an asthma attack, and I don't know what to do anymore. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I mean, it was tragic. Mary, my wife's mother, was like a second mother to me. She always cared for me as if I was her very son. It was in the early days of the new respiratory virus pandemic. The president just declared state of emergency, and most of the flights got canceled. My grandparents-in-law were living in California, more than 1,000 miles away. So I immediately jumped in the car and drove straight to them like madman. When I reached their place, the phone lines weren't working, their car broke down, the electricity generator was long gone, and the house was cold and dark. There was little to no food left in their pantry, and all their medicine was just about all gone. Fortunately for Mary, she got in time at the hospital, and the doctors did save her life. And after this event, which could have turned into a real devastating tragedy, I got my grandparents-in-law with me, and they are now living together with my family, where we are all safe. Unfortunately, many of my other friends and good folks and relatives were not that lucky, as the pandemic did spread. The new flu virus pandemic got them because they weren't prepared. You see, according to a recent survey done by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, nearly 48% of Americans are unprepared for disasters.